Hi and welcome to this video course where we're going to talk about how to build progressive web apps with Angular. In this first video, we're going to focus on introducing what progressive web apps are and how to use them. So what exactly are progressive web apps? The first thing is that progressive web apps are a way to have just one code base instead of three. When you use progressive web apps, you're only building for the web platform. You're only building a web application made of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And this is the application that you're going to use on all of the platforms. So you don't need to build any native app for Android or iOS, for instance. Another huge benefit of progressive web apps is that they have frictionless install. The idea is that on a mobile device, the user is going to get prompt to add a shortcut on the home screen on their phone. So there's no app store needed, no heavy download of a huge files of hundreds of megabytes. Instead, we are just adding a link to the home screen of the mobile device that will load the web application in there. So overall, it's really a win-win all over the place. It's easier for the user and easier for us as developers to develop such progressive web apps. So all of this sounds almost too good to be true, right? We just have to write the code once and it works everywhere. So you might wonder, but these progressive web apps, do they actually exist? And the answer is yes. Many companies have already adopted progressive web apps, and one of the most common examples that you're probably already using, especially if you live in North America, is Starbucks. You can go to app.starbucks.com and you'll see this app, and it's a progressive web app, so it can get installed on your phone, and then it would just behave like a native application, even if this is just a website in the end. So now let's go through some characteristics of progressive web apps. First, a PWA is a web app. So it is just HTML and JavaScript and CSS. When a user opens such PWA in a mobile browser, then the PWA will prompt the user to get the app installed. But again, it doesn't really install, it just creates a shortcut on the home screen of the phone. And later on, when the user is going to use that shortcut, the PWA is going to load with a splash screen, very much like a native application. And you're going to have your logo in there and the name of your app, basically. And by default, a PWA will load full screen. So it's not going to load in the browser of the mobile phone. It's basically going to be just like a native app, having its own window, a self-contained environment for this web application. And there's more to it. PWAs are really meant to behave like native applications. And as a result, what we can do with PWAs is notifications, for instance. So you can notify your user of an update, or if they got a message or anything you want them to be notified of. And this could work even if your web app is not open. So you can have some kind of background process that runs through a service worker that we're going to talk about later on. And this background process is going to wait for info from your server and push notifications to the user. Another huge benefit is that PWAs are designed so that you can make them work offline. Even if the user doesn't have any connectivity on their device, they should be able to open your app, see the user interface, and do a few things without any internet connection. And PWAs can make coffee and tea. No, that's a joke, of course. PWAs are great, but they don't make everything yet. It's still very much the beginning of progressive web apps, and we're going to get much more features in the future. So how do we build a PWA? Progressive web apps rely on two main technologies. The first one is a manifest file, manifest.json, and that's where we're going to define the icon, the app name, the splash screen, all of this that we need to have the native behavior and look and feel of the application. And the second part that we need for a PWA, which is actually optional, but it's a nice to have really, that's the service worker part. That's going to cache the code, so HTML, JavaScript, CSS, images, even maybe some data that you want to be accessible offline. And we're going to achieve that through a service worker. Also, one thing that you need to know is that progressive web apps require HTTPS. So you do need a SSL certificate on your server with HTTPS up and running in order to have a progressive web app. But once you have HTTPS plus at the very least a manifest file, then you have a progressive web app.